Aslam Abdullah, who is the Imam at the Masjid of Ibrahim in Las Vegas. He is the editor of Muslim Observer and the director of the Muslims Electorates Council of America. He is visiting us. He will give short khatira to us. Jazakallah khairan.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ahmaduhu wa usalli ala rasulihil kareem khatamul anbiya wal mursaleen. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli alayhi. I realize that tomorrow is a working day and many of you would be going early to the work, so I would be very brief. And it is in that particular context the Quran also tells us, وَإِمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. That which is relevant and useful for humanity is that survives. A principle that the Quran has outlined. And if we look at the ideas that Islam introduced, that changed the shape of human society, and that were adopted by humanity in general over a period of almost 1,000 years, we often find that how great is the contribution and how great is the relevance of Islam to the humanity and to the world. Often we Muslims fail to recognize that contribution of Islam, let alone non-Muslims who often have difficulty in comprehending that kind of ideas that Islam promoted that have become the foundation of human society in our times, and on that foundation the human society is flourishing and cannot move away from that. The problem is that we often fail to recognize the relevance and importance of those ideas. And there are 6 main ideas, and I will just very briefly mention them, that are described in the Quran, ideas that were adopted by humanity over a period of 1,000 years, and ideas without which the humanity cannot progress any further. The first is, كان الناس أمة واحدة فبعث الله النبيين مبشرين وأنزل معهم الكتاب بالحق ليحكم بين الناس فيما اختلفوا فيه. All humanity is one. Because the source of humanity is one. The one who created humanity is none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the Rabb of all. And the purpose of the divine guidance and divine message is to keep on bringing people to that oneness of humanity. And the oneness of humanity would come when the people would agree on certain basic fundamental principles that are not originated by human beings, but that have divine origin, a divine who is the source of guidance for all human beings. So the first idea is what we call the unity of humanity. The second idea that the Quran promoted is وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, that every human being deserves a dignified existence. That every human being, regardless of his religion and her religion, gender, ethnicity and culture and geography, deserves a dignified existence, and then the Quran explains what that dignity means. Quran says that dignity means right to have one's opinion, right to have one's own religion, right to have one's freedom to choose a path for oneself, right to have a life, and right to earn the fruits of one's labor, and right to experiment the ideas within the nucleus of one's family. This is the second thing that the Quran focuses on. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. The third that the Quran talked about is the universality of human resources. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَّا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created is the common property of all human beings. No nation, no group, no community can monopolize them and use them for their own ethnic, cultural, and political purposes. So that is the third idea that the Quran focused. First is the unity of humanity. The second is dignity of human beings. The third is commonality of human resources. The fourth is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. The justice is the order of the day, and justice is the command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given in order to maintain balance in the society, and the justice must begin within one's own confines and should move on beyond one's families and one's relationship, encompassing all, so that the truth could prevail and the disturbance and the disorder could disappear. So that is the fourth thing. And the fifth thing that the Quran mentioned, which was adopted by the words almost for 1200 years later. In Europe, in the 17th century, a big debate was going on around the 18th century. How many teeth does a chicken have? And the father of modern science came out, Sir Francis Bacon, and he said, why don't you open the beak of the chicken to count? And of course, there is no teeth for the chicken. What he was saying, that use facts to determine the reality and the accuracy of things, as Quran says, وَلَا تَخْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. That do not vouchsafe for anything that you have no knowledge. Use your rational, your observation, and your listening faculties to determine accuracy, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you on the day of judgment, and also in this word about all the usage of all those things. So the Quran focused on the exploration and the understanding and using the scientific method to determine facts and to explore this universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to humanity. And finally, Wallahu yadu ila dar salam, that the purpose of all this is to enable human beings to achieve internal and external peace, so that they could cultivate their faculties and their abilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them beyond the conflicts, because most of the time people spend their energies in resolving the conflicts that they impose upon themselves as a result of social, political, cultural differences. This is the mandate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to Muslims, to bring humanity to the oneness, to stand for the dignity of human being, to ensure that the resources that Allah has created are the common property of everyone, to ensure that the justice prevails, and to ensure that the society moves on a path of scientific development to determine the facts and accuracy, and no whimsical ideas and no wrong ideas prevail the human minds, so that we could all find ourselves at peace with ourselves, with our Creator, in the universe. That is what the mandate is, and that is what our Prophet ﷺ lived. And if you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ in the context of those principles, you would find that the Prophet ﷺ really created a society that reflected all those things, depending how you are reading it and who is teaching you. So that is what our responsibility is. And if we go back to those ideals, certainly the results would be the same as they were at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And I'll conclude with this fact, that when Prophet ﷺ began his call to the divine guidance and his call to the oneness of humanity and dignity of humanity and all those kinds of things, he was the only one who was making that call. In less than 23 years, when he left this world, there were more than 1 million people who followed his call. And the city, even though he was expelled from the city where he was preaching all those things when he left, there were more than 3 million square kilometers under the control of those people who believed in his message. It did not happen as a result of any violence, because if you look at the numbers of wars that took place at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the casualties, you would be shocked to hear that out of 83 wars that took place, and in 81 and 43 of them in which the Prophet ﷺ participated, there were only 483 casualties. And out of those 483 casualties, 279 were Muslims and the rest were non-Muslims. Nowhere in the history of humanity such a great revolution, change of ideas and change of direction has taken place with so minimum loss of the blood. It was due to that message that Prophet ﷺ shared as was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم.
Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Sahab.